for people to assume that the only way for us to have meaning and purpose and value and happiness in our marriage, to feel fulfillment within us, is to have kids is insane.
Advocating for people to be child-free by choice does not mean that you're saying that people should not have children. But we don't have to defend having children, I think, because that's already the norm.
Hey guys, it's me, Helena. Welcome back to the channel where we make videos on whatever I want to talk about. And in today's video series, in the Authentic Living series, now Child-Free by Choice series, oh yeah, we're going all in on this topic. And in today's video, I really wanted to bring my husband into this video because, you know, a lot of you guys want to know about what is it like from my husband's perspective, a man's perspective.
Yeah. All right.
Honey, when did you know that you wanted to be child-free by choice?
So it's interesting that I think you've mentioned that maybe you had a feeling like you've always known that you wanted to be child-free by choice. For me, that's not the case, actually. So I never and still don't know for sure that I want to be child-free by choice. But what I do is I look at each moment, each immediate future and more distant future, and I keep on saying, no. I don't like dealing in absolutes, you know?
I know you.
But I also know realistically what I want and what we want. I don't want kids right now. I don't want kids in the immediate future. And it's okay not to know. It's okay to not be sure of things. It's important to check in for yourself and realize what you want, what you don't want. You don't have to make a definite decision forever, you know, like, or you can if you know for sure. But for me, it's kind of, you know, it's like a 99.5% I don't want to have kids. And so I just keep on going, I keep on checking in with myself, and I keep on saying, yeah, I don't want to have kids. And yeah, that's enough for me.
Why though?
You need to really want to have kids, not like a passing fancy, because it's a serious responsibility. And so I have no burning desire to have kids at all. I don't think they would enhance my life in any way, really. Sure, there's an element of, yeah, it'd be nice to be a dad, you know, to teach people, but I already teach people in my day-to-day. It's not something that's super exciting to me, and I think you have to really want it 100% because it's such a commitment.
Completely.
And there's just so many other things, like, for me personally, I don't know if this comes across sometimes, but I can be a bit of an anxious person. I'm always thinking about details and what can go wrong and like how to make sure everything's good. And as we travel, you know, I always think about that, like what if a plane is canceled, or what if things, you know, making sure that things are good by thinking of what could go wrong. If you add a child into the mix, all kinds of things could go wrong for all kinds of reasons. And I'm also a very logical person. So when, let's say, if we had a child, our child decided not to put on their shoe because it's the wrong color or something, and because of that, it's an extra 30 minutes, and then we miss our train, and then we miss our flight, and then we can't go to the place where we've reserved. There's a whole cascade of things that could happen. That's a very small instance. I'm not even talking about like the issues with medical issues, like something that, you know, obviously I'm no doctor, so what if there's a medical issue that I can't deal with? And so there's just so many different things that could go wrong, or things that we would have to manage and deal with, right?
You are so little anxious.
It's not
Such
just
a
that.
worrywart.
It's not just that. And I know that we would have beautiful moments too, but I think having a child will require a lot of patience. It would change the focus between us and ourselves personally.
It would completely change our marriage in every freaking way. Every way.
So it would be kind of more focused on the kid. And so I would be just constantly worried or focused on, is the kid getting enough food? Are they getting to school okay? Are they, you know, my attention would be so focused on them. It would hurt our relationship.
Yeah. Our marriage is number one. Everything comes back to the marriage.
Yeah.
Our marriage is the greatest thing in my life.
Yeah, so there's a lot of more responsibility and issues that we would have to manage together. And I just don't have a desire to take that on. You know, and it's a trade-off, right? Like, you're taking all these responsibilities because you want to have these magical moments with this child that you've created as your own, and I get that. It totally makes sense. For a lot of people who are more rooted with their career, with their lifestyle, like with having families close to them, it makes a lot of sense to have a kid. Mm-hmm. So that's totally fine for them. Mm. We are very nomadic. We're hoping that we can stay here in Paris for more than a year or two.
I want to live in Australia. I want to live in Asia. I want to live all over the world. Like, I mean, you could have a kid and raise a kid abroad. You could travel with the
that's
kid.
what happens
So
with
many
me.
people say, "Oh, I can't do things once I have a kid." No, you can.
Yeah, no,
You
absolutely.
can. It just requires a lot more sacrifice and time and planning and preparation and
Yeah.
a lot of
Logistics.
things. A lot of things you can't do when you have a kid. It's just harder.
Exactly.
And I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. I want life to be spontaneous. I want life to be freeing.
And there's just too many trade-offs and sacrifices that we're not willing to make for that benefit of having those magical moments. Because for us, or at least for me, we can have all kinds of beautiful things on our own in different ways, like having a cat or a dog. We can do all that. We don't need to have a child for that. And as a philosophy, that we have enough people on the planet already, and we don't need to overpopulate. We have limited resources, and in my opinion personally, either it's better as a society as a whole to have no kids or to have one kid but not two to contribute, because as global warming is increasing, there's less habitable, comfortable places to live on the planet. That's going to keep on getting worse, unfortunately. And we have scarce resources as it is. And I think, humans demand a lot of resources with all the things that we consume. So having less of that is good for the planet, it's good for the environment, it's good for us as well. There's more to go around when we have less humans.
I recognized her username and her user profile. Hi, Lola. She said, you're marching forth with this idea that not having children is an incredible achievement shows me you are deeply traumatized. And mind you, I have never wanted to have children. I just find it sad that you're using your choice as a weapon to march forth fighting ghosts from your traumatizing past. What are your thoughts on women who speak out about things like being child-free by choice, or just sharing their voice, sharing their values, sharing what matters to them, and speaking up on platforms like YouTube in regards to the child-free by choice movement? Do you think that women who do that are traumatized? What are your thoughts on that, on like the whole child-free by choice, like social media awareness?
I think saying that someone speaking about it is traumatized, it's a bit extreme. Are you traumatized for talking about this too? I mean, just because you're talking about
anything you talk about, does that mean you're traumatized? Like, are you traumatized if you talk about, I don't know, lifestyle content, being a vegetarian, making vegan content? Are you traumatized by meat and that's why you're making content on veganism?
Because there's a lot that was said there and I'm trying to wrap my head around it. An achievement is to have a child and to have a successful
That's an incredible achievement to have
with
children.
A child. That is an incredible achievement. It's not an achievement to not do something. That's like saying I had an incredible achievement to not go to college.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about though, people. If you decide to share your voice and your opinions online, prepare for this kind of onslaught. Prepare for people who are going to start making accusations and assumptions about your life.
I'm personally very combative, debative. Is that a word?
Yeah.
I like debating things. And so having this, I'm very good at, I'm not usually like this on camera, but if someone gives me an argument that's very weak or doesn't make a lot of sense, I will nitpick it to heck. And I don't get emotional about it. I just get fired up, So I don't.
Here's Scotty Rule said, people aren't capable of loving anyone but themselves. That's a failing society resulting in poor education and parental upbringing. Do you think that being child-free by choice is selfish? You're only caring about yourself when you choose not to have children. Do you agree with Scotty who left this comment?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, selfish in the sense that you're doing what's best for yourself, yes. But I could also say then that having a child is selfish because you're doing what's best for yourself to bring a child into this life. You could say that if you travel a lot and you don't have a lot of money, so you don't have a good support system, but you just really, really want to have a child, I could also argue that having a child is selfish because you want to have a child just to have a child, not because when you bring the child into this life, into this world, they're going to have a poor support system. They're going to be moving around a lot.
Yeah.
It's not fair to that child to do that to them. And so I think, if anything, it is being responsible of us for not having a child in this environment where we're in. I mean, you could say, I guess you could make an argument that if you live the same place for all your life and you have all this family and friends that can help you out, and you make a whole lot of money, and so you have a big house and you don't have kids, maybe that's being selfish.
No, honey. I disagree completely.
You disagree with that?
Completely.
Like, I'm just trying to see
You're
that
trying to
perspective.
see every side of the
I'm trying to see a perspective, but even then, it's kind of like you can do a lot for. I mean, not having a child and then volunteering, or working in politics, or there's so many different ways to be selfless.
Oh my God, completely.
So the argument that you're being selfish if you don't have a child means that you can only be selfless if you have a child, and you can't be selfless in any other manner. I completely disagree with that.
Being alive is enough. Being alive on this planet is, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meaningful just by living and breathing and being on this planet. To assume that you are only valuable in this world as a human is if you procreate. Who's to say that those people aren't contributing in their own ways? Who's to say that those people who are choosing to be child-free by choice, intentionally, responsibly, these are people who have thought long and hard and intentionally about whether or not they want to have kids. We're not talking about people who are child-free by, biologically or...
By requirement.
We're talking about people who are intentionally choosing to not have kids. Mm-hmm. These kinds of people, these are people who think long and hard about this, who go deep in studying, thinking about the consequences, the ramifications of the actions taken in the moment, who are thinking about 10, 20, 30 years down the line. That is intelligence. I think. I think it is totally intelligent to be thinking about these types of things. And for someone to choose that they don't want to have kids, like, wow, what incredible forethought.
I think actually, if you think about it, this is just such an interesting conversation, because there's so many elements and venues I can go down with this philosophically. I would argue that education and schools, and most people, including conservatives, are actually child-free by choice. They believe that up until a certain age, right? Because nobody would want to have a teenage pregnancy, right? Mm-hmm. It's considered a bad idea if a woman has a baby at 15 or 16 or 17 or whatever. Mm. Why? Because they don't have the structure and the system to support that child. Now, if you don't have a lot of money and a lot of ways to support yourself and you're 30, how is that any different? How is it suddenly now that you're supposed to have... I mean, you could have a child and it leads to needing to give them up for adoption because you're broke, which is not hard to see in the United States right now, with issues with income and poverty. So there's this underlying assumption that bringing a child into the world is just across the board a value, like a good thing to society.
And also, who's to say that you can't contribute in other ways? What about being an incredible partner to in your marriage, giving so much of yourself to your partner? Isn't that a value? Isn't that worthy? Or what about if you're intentionally single and child-free? You can contribute in so many ways to your friendships, to your family, to your nieces and nephew, to your cousins, to your community. Maybe you're an active volunteer. Maybe you volunteer at the soup kitchen every Saturday.
Exactly.
Maybe you're an active volunteer at the animal welfare organization down the street from your house. Maybe you are really into your research. Maybe you're a scientist or a data or a historian or a librarian, and you love researching and that quiet, spacious time to research and go deep into your studies of what you're passionate about, what you're interested in. What if that's enough? Who's to say that you can't have value doing those things? I just find the whole selfish argument to be blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy.
I don't go that far. I use more dramatic terms, but it's this underlying assumption that if you really put it under a lens, under a microscope, you realize it doesn't hold any weight. It doesn't make any sense because there's so many different ways to contribute to society. You can work in a foster home as a volunteer or as a full-time job. There's so many different ways you can contribute. You can give 4 cats who are living on the street and are impoverished a safe home.
Oh, who's that Instagram account that we love?
Heidi...
Wrangles Cats?
Yes, I think it's
Heidi Wrangles Cats. She literally dedicates all her time to rescuing and saving cats on the street in Brooklyn and giving them like, neutering them, getting them socialized with humans and then fostering them. That's like her life. And I'm just like, what an incredible way to contribute.
Yeah.
Like finding a way to have meaning in your life. It doesn't have to be this big thing. You don't have to be this career person.
Yeah.
You don't have to be this person that desires to be seen or fame or have a lot of money. You could just be someone who wants to teach. Maybe you tutor on the weekends. Maybe you're an active volunteer in your community. Maybe you love community theater and you like to volunteer in the costume department at your local theater or church. Maybe you're on the choir at church and you bring joy to people every weekend through your music. Like, there are so many freaking ways to contribute.
Absolutely.
So many ways to contribute. And it's like, who's to say that being a parent is the only way that you can make a contribution in life?
It is a way that you can contribute, but it's not the only way. And
it's
the
not
assumption
the only way.
that that's the only way, that if you're not doing that, you're not making any contribution to society, is honestly just laughable. It really is.
That's what I'm saying. Blasphemy.
Well,
Blasphemy. It's malarkey. It's laughable.
Yeah. Well, blasphemy would suggest that there's a certain... Actually, blasphemy is saying that there is no God, right?
You teach me so much. He teaches me so much. He's my teacher.
The word originally, like, we would say, like, malarkey and blasphemy, totally different.
He teaches me. He corrects me on my grammar. He teaches me words. You're so good, honey. And that's the thing. How are you going to give back to the world in your own unique way? I mean, you're a teacher.
I think I need to contribute more, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I guess I try to contribute in a subtle way by creating a respectful but a warm and inviting atmosphere in all of my classes, in all of my classrooms, right? So to realize that learning English can be really a joy and a delight, and to inspire them to want to speak English in whatever way fits to that individual person.
But honey, you're such a good teacher. Your students love you. That is your way of contribution. Yeah. You give so much to your students every year. You give so much to our marriage. Yeah. You give so much to every person that you interact with at the bike shop, at the barista, at the coffee shop. You are such a kind light of a person. You are giving to the world just by being yourself. Mm-hmm. And who's to say that you have to do something important to have meaning? Oh, I'm so passionate about this topic. Let's continue on though, because there's a common thing.
There are different definitions of important, but yeah.
There's a common thing that I see on my YouTube comments and my Childfree videos that says like, oh, when you get older, you're going to get bored of your marriage and you're going to feel like something's missing and you're going to be like, why didn't we? You're going to regret not having kids because you'll have done everything and you'll be older and then you'll look back and regret not doing it. First off, I think that's such an assumption, and I'm disgusted by this type of content, comment. But what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's definitely a possibility. That's why I'm thinking like the 0.5%. But just because it's a possibility doesn't mean it's going to be true. And I could also say the inverse is true. You could say the exact opposite and say, trust me, if you have kids, you're going to regret it. And you're going to think back and wish that, you didn't do this for X, Y, Z reasons because now you don't have any peace or you have to take care of someone else. Saying that you should do it because you're going to regret it works both ways. So it's not actually a good argument.
Well, that's the thing. Go to Regretful Parents on the subreddit. You'll find tons of people there. And I've personally met so many women in my own life who've confided in me and told me that they regret having children, that they wish they could turn back time and not become mothers because they had other things they wanted to do in their life and they couldn't do it because they had kids. Being a parent is a sacrifice. And anyone who thinks that it isn't, you're living in a fairy tale fantasy bubble and it needs to be fucking popped. My husband loves me for my strength and my confidence and my no bullshit, here's what I think, I'm going to share it with you. This is, I think, one of the reasons you married me is you love a strong woman. You told me this. You love a strong, powerful woman.
I love the fact that you're so strong and you come up with these good discussions and topics because I love riffing off it. I need someone to give me a good discussion topic in order to respond to it. And you give me so much to work with in terms of all these ideas.
I have a hot topic. Something just came into my mind. Okay. I have a hot topic. I donated my eggs twice when I was 19 and 20 years old. They got a lot of eggs. I know I have a lot of children out there, probably 5, 6, maybe 7 kids out there in the world. What do you think about me having half of me out there in human form? And someone asked if I want to meet them. Absolutely not. That was very important to me when I did donate my eggs was I was very clear with the doctors, like, I do not want to have any interaction or connection with these children. That's a personal choice. Everyone has their own decisions when going into the egg donation process. I was 19 years old. That was a decision I needed to make in order to pay my bills and pay off my student loan debt. You know, I had to do that to pay off the financial debt that I had. So I did it. It's a great way to help families who can't conceive. Happy to do so, but I don't want to be involved in a child's life. I don't know who they are. There's no connection aside from my genes, but personally, I'm not very attached to the idea that your genes, like blood relation, I don't at all. It's not something I care about. I don't think there's any meaning to that. I think it's more nurture than nature. So that's just my personal thoughts. But what do you think about, like, knowing that I have kids out there in the world? Would you ever want to meet them? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, not really, no. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be against it, but I would feel no connection to them. They just, the woman who birthed the child and the father or mother, whichever, the people who raised the child are the real parents. We have nothing to do with that. And so I can see why you wouldn't want to meet them.
Yeah.
When you first told me back in the day, I was like, what? It's an unusual thing I thought of. But like, the more I thought about it, the more I realized there are people who don't have any children, but who really want to, that they're ready financially, emotionally, in their stage in their lives, and they just can't, and so it's heartbreaking.
A question that I have seen on my YouTube comments is, but Alex, don't you want to have Helena's children? Don't you want to have half of Helena and a child together? What is your reaction to that?
No.
It's like, yeah, I would love to have a mini Alex. Like, I told Alex, if we ever had a kid, I would want him to look just like him. I would want it to be just like him, and I would want to name him Alex Jr. And Alex is like, no, we would never name our kid Alex Jr.
I think it would be cute to have a little child, boy or girl, that had elements of Helena in his or her personality.
Sure.
But do I want that so much to actually have a child? No.
The weight of the responsibility, the obligations every day to meeting that child's need every day for the rest of your life, not until the kid's 18, but for the rest of your life. These are important things to think about. And if you haven't watched my video on Childfree by Choice, why women are not having children, check out that video above. I'm going to keep making lots more videos on this topic. I just find that this is an increased conversation that needs to be had, especially in this political climate that we're living in.
Advocating for people to be child-free by choice does not mean that you're saying that people should not have children. I think people who have children and hear an argument for being child-free by choice, they hear, oh, I shouldn't have had my child, and what an affront that is because I love my child.
No!
That is not what we're saying. That is not what we're saying.
Okay, honey.
So please, but we don't have to defend having children, I think, because that's already the norm.
It's already the norm.
We're just defending the non-norm, the unconventional thing of not having children and choosing not to have children, and to be respectful to that choice and not have to say, oh, why aren't you having kids? Yeah.
The reason I'm making these videos is not at all to be an attack or an affront on anyone who chooses to have children. In fact, I would say a lot of you out there in the comments, you have children and you're so grateful. It's one of the best blessings of your life. And I'm so in support of that.
It's awesome.
I used to be a child and family photographer. I used to work at the hospital and photograph newborns. I used to be a preschool teaching assistant. I used to be a full-time nanny. To say that I don't love that world or that I criticize that world or condemn being a parent is ludicrous.
Yeah, we love families.
And I have to say, I've said this multiple times in my past video on being child-free by choice, and it's true, honey. You're so right. You have to say this 1,000,000 times. Repeat this over and over in videos because people love to attack you if you say you're child-free by choice and why you love being child-free by choice, or like being a voice for the tons of people who feel shame about it and don't want to speak up, who are afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
And when you are proud and courageous enough to get on camera, put out your opinions on the internet for everyone to see and criticize, you're going to get flack for it. But I'm here to do that, and I'm not afraid of putting my opinions on the internet and sharing this, because there's a lot of people who have the same thoughts and ideas and beliefs as we do as a married couple. We've been together 10 years. It's the most incredible thing in my life is our marriage. I'm the thing I'm most protective of. I honor him. He's the best thing in my life. And like, people who assume that if you're in a happy marriage, you're going to want to have kids, it's insane to me. And that's why I'm so passionate about making videos on this, because I want to show a nuanced perspective. I want to say that there are people out there like us who are married and really happy and have our hobbies and we have our passions and we're living our dream life right now.
Absolutely.
And for people to assume that the only way for us to have meaning and purpose and value and happiness in our marriage, to feel fulfillment within us, is to have kids is insane. And that's why I'm so called to talk about this, is to be a voice for the people who are in the same boat as us, who feel the same way as us. Because let me tell you, I have aunts and uncles in my life who have intentionally chosen not to have kids. One of my aunts and uncles, and I've always looked up to them when I was a little kid, he got a vasectomy when they were very young. When they were like 20 years old, my uncle got a vasectomy. They knew they didn't want to have kids. And I remember my mom used to say, oh God, they're so selfish. They're so selfish for not wanting to have kids, for getting a vasectomy so young. And I remember thinking in the backseat of the car, I have a vivid memory of this, of like, but why? What if they just didn't want to have kids? What if that's just not what they want? And meanwhile, they were adopting, fostering so many animals, and they had all their passions, their projects. They were traveling the world. They had their dream life. And I remember looking up to them so much and being like, yeah. And then also my other aunt, uncle, they didn't have kids, and they're happily living their dream life on the farm in West Virginia. Happily, they're in their 70s now. They go to dancing classes every weekend. They watch the sunset every night on their swing in the back porch. And I look up to them so much too. And I remember I asked my aunt, I said, why, have you ever gotten criticism for not having kids? Because it's something that I'm considering and something I'm wanting, but I'm afraid to talk to people about it or say about it. And she said, yeah, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't talk about it to anyone. And if anyone asks if you want kids, just say, I don't know, not right now. And I remember that conversation thinking, why? What if you know? Why not be loud and fucking proud about it? I'm serious. Why not be proud about it? Why not speak your values and speak your truth authentically? Why say, I don't know, not right now? And it's because, she's very traditional. She's very conservative, my aunt. In that kind of world, in the church world, you don't really say that, because being a mother in religious communities, most women are kind of pressured to have children.
I can tell you why she's suggested not to say anything. It's because it's tiring to explain yourself.
Even if it's I never get tired of explaining myself.
That is different from the conventional process. You always have to explain it a little bit because it's new to people, right?
Let it be new. Let it be triggering. Let it be exciting and refreshing. Let it allow you to electrify everything you've once thought. Let the lightning bolt buzz through your body and make you see things in a new way. Hallelujah.
But yeah.
So this is a little chatty sit down about the Childfree by Choice movement. A lot of you, I'm sure, would love to hear his perspective on this. I wanted to make sure we did a video where we talk about this. And he and I, we have very different energies. We have different personalities, different thoughts on things. And so if you want to see
even the colors, right? Like dark, light.
If you want to see more videos where we talk about certain subjects, I'm happy to make videos on. And I will say I've gotten some really nasty comments in my Childfree by Choice and marriage videos. It's always the marriage videos, honey, that always get the most nasty comments. I'm all for critical thinking. I'm all for nuanced perspective. And I love having conversations that expand my worldview. But please be kind and have your manners readily available. And also, if you're gonna be rude in the comments, there's a nice way where you can phrase it instead of just being an asshole. So just letting you know, be nice in the comments. Please don't judge each other. Have a nice discussion down below if it's something that suits your fancy. And if you want to see more videos where he and I talk together and you hear his perspective, I'm open to it. Just don't be an asshole about our marriage, because a lot of people love to say things about my husband and about us, and I will fight you. All right. Anything else you want to say, honey?
No, just reiterate one last time that, okay, here's the basics. You can live your whole life and not have kids and not have regrets. You can live your whole life and at the end have regrets for not having kids. But you can also have kids your whole life and have no regrets and be happy about it. But you can also have kids your whole life and have regrets about it. All four options are possible. And so all we're saying is we're not saying that you should have children or you should not have children. We are not saying that you should not have a child because that you can only live a full life if you have no children. We're not saying that at all.
No!
We're saying everyone has a chance to have their own choice to choose any of those two options, and any of the four things could happen, but it depends on the person. It always depends on the person. And so what we're saying is we are for choice of lifestyle. We are defending that choice of lifestyle, and every person is unique, and to make
each their own.
Exactly, to make everyone across the spectrum, simplify them to a simple statement of everyone must want to have children. We are fighting against that. So that is what we're saying. We are not against children.
Here.
We're fighting against the implication and the suggestion that everyone must have children or want to have children. If you don't, that's weird. That's what we're against. That's all.
The goal of making these child-free by choice videos is to, one, challenge those of you who are not living in your authenticity and not living in your truth and your power and your voice, to encourage you to be empowered in who you are. And to also, to allow you and encourage you, inspire you to question what you know, what you've thought, what you've believed about from society and media and pressure from your family, your friends, your mother, your husband. This is to allow you to question more of what you've been taught. And also, 3, to show an example of what's possible and that there are people like you out there. There are marriages that are incredible and relationships that are amazing, and also single people that are so happy in their life, in their choices. And we're out there supporting you. We're here to tell you you're not alone, and there are people out there like you that are living and happy. And please do not allow the pressure of the world from society to make you think that there's something wrong with you for not desiring having children.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the goal of these child-free by choice videos. It's not to attack anyone. It's not to affront anyone. It is to give those people an example and a voice.
That's right.
There is a purpose why I'm making these videos. There's an intentionality why I'm sharing these types of topics. Because we're waking up, and we need to step into our authenticity and our truth. Never mind, I'm just not going to say it. All right.
If you're surrounded by friends and family who you feel are pressuring you to have, to not have children, but you just really want to have a child, don't let them pressure you. If having a child is what feels right and unique to you, you should do it.
Yes.
But by and large, that's not what I think is happening. What I think is happening is the reverse.
It's the reverse.
That everyone is having children and pressuring you who doesn't want to have a child that you should have a child because that's what you should want.
Yep.
And that's what we're defending. That's it. Exactly.
All right, guys. Have a magical day. Over and out. Alex and Helena, have a magical day, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.